Hi everyone, thanks for watching. In this video, we will take a look at 6 passionate but divisive beliefs that are pitting Americans against one another, and how many of these divisions are actually serving to help Trump return to power. And I also want to talk about 2 Bible passages that refer to how the final beast kingdom will be divided or partly broken, and how the Antichrist himself will be the one who sows discord. For the record, the purpose of this video isn't to make a case for which of these beliefs are more Christian, but to instead point out how irreconcilable each side is with the other. More than ever before, the United States is truly a kingdom divided against itself. So let's get right into this. Here are 6 specific beliefs that are fracturing America in two, while also empowering Donald J. Trump. Number 1, abortion. Pro-life versus pro-choice. Abortion is not only an extraordinarily emotional issue on both sides, but it has been consistently divisive over the years. A recent Gallup poll showed that 49% of Americans identified as pro-choice, while 47% identified as pro-life. The abortion debate has reached new heights of emotion ever since the Supreme Court's draft opinion leaked out a few weeks back, resulting in protests in front of the private residence of some of the Supreme Court justices. But that could be just the beginning. According to a Department of Homeland Security memo obtained by Axios, the U.S. government is bracing for a potential surge in political violence once the Supreme Court hands down a ruling that's expected to overturn Roe v. Wade. Law enforcement agencies are investigating social media threats to burn down or storm the Supreme Court building and murder justices and their clerks, as well as attacks targeting places of worship and abortion clinics. The eventual overturning of Roe v. Wade will also greatly benefit one politician in particular, Donald J. Trump. He will be loved even more by conservative groups for finally being able to achieve what no other Republican president could. Ironically, this love for Trump by the pro-life community will come despite his long history of proclaiming himself as pro-choice.
But you would not ban it?
No.
Or ban partial birth abortion?
No, I am pro-choice in every respect.
Number 2, the 2020 election. Stop the steal versus stop the coup. Another extraordinarily divisive issue is that a substantial number of Americans believe that the 2020 election was stolen from Trump. That belief originated in large part with Trump's stunning claim on election night that he had won, despite all the votes not yet being counted. Democrats, for their part, refer to Trump's claim of victory as the big lie, and point out that he also made an evidence-free claim in 2016, alleging that 3 to 5 million illegal immigrants voted for Clinton, which cost him the popular vote. No evidence of that has ever been shown. The majority of Republicans, however, do believe that Trump is telling the truth about the 2020 election, and remain convinced that he legitimately won, and do blame his loss on substantial voter fraud, much of it due to mail-in voting. The related issue of the January 6th attack on the Capitol has likewise sharply divided the nation, with several polls showing slightly more than 50% of Americans view it as an attempted coup, while the vast majority of Republicans feel that too much is being made of it. In large part to their belief that Trump was robbed of his 2020 election victory, 80% of Republicans want Trump to run again in 2024, not only cementing him as the clear favorite in the GOP primary, but solidifying him as the face of the party. It is Trump's very claim of election fraud in the 2020 election that is fueling the outrage on the right and their desire to get him back into office. The perception that Trump was robbed in 2020, true or not, is empowering him onto a likely victory in the 2024 election. Number 3, guns. Pro-gun versus gun control. Far too often a tragedy reminds us of the debate over stricter gun laws and whether such laws might help to limit the bloodshed from gun violence. And the resulting uproar on both sides after a mass shooting reminds us how truly divisive this issue is. 4 in 10 American households state that they own a gun, with many households choosing not to reveal whether they do, as either they don't trust the government with such information or the guns themselves are possibly illegal. Polls show that 48% of Americans as a whole see gun violence as a very big problem, but by contrast, only 18% of Republicans agree. Likewise, while 53% of Americans are in favor of stricter gun laws, 27% of Republicans state that gun laws should be less strict. Gun owners themselves are overwhelmingly supportive of the GOP in general, and Trump in particular, as polling around the time of the 2020 election indicated more than 95% favored Trump over Biden. And it's this almost universal support for Trump among gun owners that could potentially play a role in the future, as it's no secret that some on the far right have called, and are calling for, a second civil war in the United States. If and when some sort of uprising does indeed happen, or the unthinkable occurs and we have a second civil war, one thing is for certain: the side that supports Trump will also have most of the guns. Number 4, patriotism, nationalism versus multiculturalism. The nationalistic tendencies of much of the right, fueled by Trump's MAGA movement, stand in stark contrast to the left's promotion of diversity and immigration as being key to America's strength. In recent years, the MAGA movement has helped to bring about what can only be termed as hyper-patriotism, and the glorification of America among conservatives has even seeped its way into the Christian church. This idolization of America has given free rein for the dark undercurrents of Christian nationalism and white nationalism to rear their ugly heads, leading to a witch's brew of racism and patriotism being mixed together with one's faith. By contrast, large parts of the left see the right's hyper-patriotism and ultra-MAGA crowd as not only completely un-American, but as an attempt to instill a theocracy and thereby an existential threat to democracy. To the right, however, patriotism is the logical result of one's love for his own country. And when it comes to loving one's country, there is simply no better example than the ultimate patriot, Donald J. Trump, who risked everything just to serve America. Number 5, transgender issues, two sexes versus sexual fluidity. There may be no topic currently more divisive for many Americans than transgender issues, especially gender-affirming care, which can include treatments for adolescents ranging from therapy to drugs to even surgery. At the heart of this issue is that a sizable segment of the country believes that the concept of two genders is set in stone and assigned at one's birth, while a growing segment of the population promotes the idea of sexual fluidity and there being more than two genders. And this issue also extends into whether transgender adults should be allowed to compete in sports leagues corresponding to the gender that they identify with, or if such participation is fundamentally unfair, especially for transgender men competing in women's leagues. As much as this issue is a rallying cry for marginalized groups on the left, to those on the right there isn't any possibility for compromise, and in fact it's often viewed as a war of good versus evil. Number 6, Trump, the leader we need versus the dictator in waiting. Early on in Trump's first term as president, his supporters coined the term Trump derangement syndrome as a reference to how crazy he drove liberals. Whenever Trump received over-the-top criticism from the left, or any criticism, the acronym TDS would be part of the response. As it turns out, TDS was and is an accurate way to describe that reaction of the left, as liberals were indeed driven crazy by Trump. Ironically, though, TDS is also an apt description of many on the right, who loyally and blindly defend Trump no matter what he says or does. It is next to impossible to find another person in recent history who has this love him or hate him effect on people as much as Trump does. He is simply the most divisive person of our times and can single-handedly cause rational people to lose their minds on both sides. The reason I'm mentioning these 6 divisive issues in conjunction with Trump is because of two specific Bible passages that I believe are relevant. The first is in Daniel 2, from verses 41 to 43, which talks about the feet on King Nebuchadnezzar's statue. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, forasmuch as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. This passage is referring to the fourth and final kingdom, the kingdom of the Antichrist, and how it will be powerful but also very divided, even partly broken. And this is exactly what is happening with America, as issue after issue is dividing one side against the other. The other passage I'd like to talk about is Proverbs 6, verses 12 to 14, a section that is often referred to as the wicked man and considered to be referring to the Antichrist. Pay attention to the part about sowing discord. Here are those verses. A worthless person, a wicked man, walks with a perverse mouth. He winks with his eyes. He shuffles his feet. He points with his fingers. Perversity is in his heart. He devises evil continually. He sows discord. On top of the deep divisions in this country, we have a man in Donald J. Trump who excels at sowing discord. Indeed, rather than making any attempt to bring people together, Trump's ability to divide and conquer is the key to his power. And over the coming months and years, we will see Trump continue to take advantage of the deep divisions in this country, as these divisions offer him a pathway back to power. While half of this country may despise Trump, the other half adores him. The Bible teaches us that the Antichrist will rule a divided and broken kingdom. And as we look at America today, we can clearly see these fractures all around us, and the man who matches the biblical description of the Antichrist waiting for his chance to return to power. Thank you for watching. If you care to leave a comment, please do. As always, kindly be respectful in any comment you leave, especially towards those with whom you disagree. I'll talk to you guys soon.